Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall discuss about an important history topic, that is Swadeshi movement. So there are four important movements: Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and Quit India movement. So this topic we'll be discussing from Bipan Chandra's point of view. So we have prepared these notes from Bipan Chandra. So what I will urge you is, once this discussion is over, I will urge you to read the topic of Swadeshi movement in Bipan Chandra, because in Bipan Chandra the material is very much bulky, but when it comes to examination we need to prioritize the things into what is important and what is not important. So that's why after the completion of this, once you start reading Bipan Chandra, you will come across numerous points where you will get confused whether they are important or not, and you may also notice that few of those points might be missing here. So in the next subsequent interactive online classes, you can ask us those questions wherever you are getting confused. So whether those points have been deliberately missed, or it is a overlaps, okay, or it's a lapse. So we'll give you a clarity whether those points are important or not. But as based on our vast experience, we have come to a conclusion that whatever we have prepared, it is more than sufficient from both prelims and mains point of view. So once you read Bipan Chandra, the Swadeshi movement, subsequently you need not refer Bipan Chandra. This notes would be more than sufficient from both prelims as well as mains point of view. So we shall begin with Swadeshi movement. Now most of these movements, all these movements, they have common features, so you often get confused. So why they are given different names? So this is beyond the scope of our discussion. So we shall only assume that the movements which have taken place at different points of history, and they have been named with different names. So one is Swadeshi movement, next is non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and Quit India movement. There are some unique features as well. So gradually, as and when we start discussing about the different movements, we'll come across those unique points. So today we shall begin with the Swadeshi movement. So when we start with any movement, as I already told you, we need to focus on 4 to 5 different aspects. What are they? When did the movement start? Who all participated? Why did a movement start? Next, how did it end? So these are the various questions which we need to ask to ourselves. So based on these questions, when we try to explore a topic for the answer, then definitely the type of understanding which we will gain, so that will be very strong. So based on keeping these basic questions in our mind, so let us begin with Swadeshi movement. So when did Swadeshi movement start? So Swadeshi movement started, or it had its genesis, its birth, in a movement called as anti-partition movement. So there was another movement going on which is called as anti-partition movement. So Swadeshi movement took its birth from this anti-partition movement. So what is this anti-partition movement? So this anti-partition movement was started to oppose the British decision to partition Bengal. So in the eastern part of India, we have Bengal. So before independence, so Bengal was very large, and from that later on Bangladesh was carved out. So now for time being, we shall assume that this is our Bengal. This is our Bengal. So British wanted to split this Bengal into 2 parts. One is western part, and the other one is eastern part. Okay, East Bengal and West Bengal. So as British wanted to split the Bengal into 2 parts, that is why a movement started. It is called as anti-partition movement. Next question that arises is, why did British want to partition this Bengal? What was the reason for the partitioning? So the reasons are different. The reasons given by Britishers is different from the actual reason. So let us delve into that topic. So Britishers said that administratively unwieldy. So Bengal was too large to administrate. That is why, in order to ease the administration, so rather than administrating a larger area, if it is split into 2 parts, then administration will be easy. So this is the reason given by Britishers. Okay, Britishers. And it also appears true to a great extent, to some extent. But what is the real reason? Was it administrative convenience or some other reason? So it is some other reason. So the real motive of the Britishers was a political reason. So what is that political reason? they wanted to weaken the rising Indian nationalism. So Indian nationalism or the thoughts of the nation and freedom were growing stronger, and in order to weaken this, Britishers planned to partition Bengal. If they wanted to why did they wanted to partition Bengal in order to weaken this nationalism? So we shall see, look into that later on. Okay, we shall see next. So why Britishers wanted to divide Bengal or partition Bengal? So we saw to weaken the rising Indian nationalism. Now why partition Bengal itself? Why not other move? Because Bengal had become a nerve center of Indian nationalism. So the feelings of nationalism and national consciousness was going very strong in Bengal. And if Britishers allowed for this feeling to develop further, then definitely a time would come wherein Britishers have to leave India. Okay, leave India. So such kind of pressure was building upon Britishers. So that's why they wanted to weaken the national consciousness. Okay, national consciousness, and that is the real motive. And how did we get to know about this real motive? Through some of the speeches and writings of the Britishers. So here an example of Curzon. So when any personality appears, we need to know about some information related to those personalities. Now Curzon was a viceroy between 1899 to 1905. So from this point we get to know that when partition of Bengal took place, Curzon was the viceroy. Curzon was the viceroy. So Curzon's words: dethrone Calcutta as the nerve center. As a nerve center of Indian nationalism, as Calcutta was becoming a very strong area for Indian nationalism. So if you weaken that area, then definitely those nationalistic feelings will come down. So these were the feelings of Curzon. So for that, the strategy was divide Bengali speaking population. So the current strategy was to divide Bengal into two parts, West Bengal and East Bengal. So Bengalis, so they were majority in original Bengal, but now if you split it into two parts, so here Bengalis will be in majority, but here Bengalis will be reduced to minority. Okay, minority. So this was the goal of Curzon. Okay, this was the goal of Curzon. In this way, he thought that Indian nationalism can be weakened. Similarly, other British administrator Risley, who was the Home Secretary to Government of India, so he too had expressed that split up and thereby weaken a solid body of opponents to our rule. So solid body of opponents to our rule, or that is British's rule, was Bengal. So Bengal had become a nerve center of national consciousness. So if you split it, if you divide them, then definitely the threat to our rule will be reduced. So this was the feeling of Risley as well. So from Klim's point of view, they may ask us, so who was Curzon? So he was viceroy. So Risley, he was Home Secretary. So from Klim's point of view, they may frame such kind of questions as well. And these other points will be beneficial when we write our mains answers. Next, so the real intention for partition, finally we got to know, it is curb Bengali influence. So there was a lot of Bengali influence on nationalism. So that influence, if we reduce, then definitely that national consciousness will come down. There will be very few people left seeking freedom. So we can secure our British rule. So this was the intention. So how? By placing Bengalis under two administration. So previously Bengalis were under single administration. Now they will be placed under two administration. Okay, one in West Bengal, another in East Bengal. Next, reducing Bengalis to minority in Bengal itself. So once Bengal was divided into two parts, so here Bengalis will be in majority, but in the other part Bengalis will be reduced to minority. Apart from this, partition was also planned on the basis of religion. Partition was also planned on the basis of religion. How? We shall see. So through Curzon's speech we'll understand here. What is that? To woo the Muslims to support partition, Curzon said that a Muslim majority provision in the province in the eastern Bengal. So as many will be opposed for the partition, so in order to garner the support of Muslims, so Curzon said that the East Bengal which we are creating, so in this East Bengal, Muslims will be the majority. So previously in United Bengal, Hindus were in majority, but when you create East Bengal, Muslim will be in majority. And always most of the communities, they try to vote remain in majority, and that is why obviously Muslims will favor the partition. So in order to seek Muslims favor for partition, so Curzon announced this. So this also indicates that partition was made in order to divide us. So it's a kind of divide and rule policy. So partition on the basis of religion. So in this way, what he planned to prop up Muslim communalist as a counter to the Congress and the national movement. So the ultimate aim was to secure the cooperation of Muslims by giving them an idea that we will be creating a East Bengal with Muslims as majority. So in this fashion, the Britishers, Curzon thought that he can use Muslims as a counter to Indian National Congress and also indirectly to national movement. So this was the plan. So this was the real motive behind what? Bengal partition. Okay, Bengal partition. That is why Indians were not in favor of, most of the Indians were not in favor of partition. Okay, and that is why they started what? Anti-partition movement. And as part of this anti-partition movement started Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement. Next, another personality, Minto. So Minto was a successor to Curzon. So Curzon was previously viceroy. Now Minto became viceroy from 1905 to 1910. Okay, another important point. Next, critical of the way partition was imposed. So Minto was unhappy, or he was critical of the way the partition was imposed, because partition was imposed without disregarding public opinion. So public opinion was against partition, but despite that, government went for partition. So that is why Minto was critical of that decision. But however, he saw it as a good political strategy. As it was a divide and rule strategy, so he thought it as a good political strategy, because in this way, Britishers can secure their rule for longer time. So here we saw first viceroy as Curzon, after that Minto. So we should be able to connect these various dots. Okay, various dots. Next, developments leading to partition. Developments leading to partition. Now here we shall see the various developments which finally led to partition. December 1903. So first, initially we'll be discussing in a comprehensive way, but later on I will indicate which are the things important which have to be memorized and the other things which can be skipped. Now, December 1903. What happened in December 1903? Partition proposals became publicly known. British announced publicly that we are going to divide Bengal. Okay, divide Bengal. Publicly announced, but they did not fix the date and time, all those things. But they publicly announced that they were going to divide Bengal or partition Bengal. So as soon as this news spreaded, so protests started, especially in Bengal. Protests started. So people started protesting. So the strength of this protest was so strong. So this example indicates. So such kind of examples can be quoted in mains. Okay. An example based question will not appear in prelims, but we can quote this example in mains. So what is that? This is an example of strength of this protest. Within 2 months of the announcement of the partition, 500 protest meetings were held in East Bengal alone. So in the day of WhatsApp, or today in the day of social media also, it will be difficult for us to have so many protest meetings. But in 1903, within a span of 2 months, there are close to 500 protest meetings. So this indicates the intensity and strength of the protest. That is anti-partition movement. So in this context, few other personalities do appear. Surendranath Banerjee, Krishna Kumar Mitra, Prithvish Chandra Rai. Surendranath Banerjee, Krishna Kumar Mitra, Prithvish Chandra Rai, and other leaders. So they launched a powerful press campaign against the partition proposals through journals and newspapers like Bengali, Hitabdi, and Sanjeevani. Now, from exam point of view, they will ask you a question: who among the following were part of the Swadeshi movement or anti-partition movement? So we should know that Surendranath Banerjee, Krishna Kumar Mitra, and Prithvish Chandra Rai. Next, they launched a powerful press campaign. So in order to inform the general public, that information has to reach the public. So there are different ways. So these personalities, what they did through press campaign, they used to write articles in the newspaper, and through that newspaper they used to disseminate the information to the public that we should protest the government's move of partitioning the Bengal. Okay. And the newspapers and journals involved were Bengali, Hitabdi, Sanjeevani. It's apart from the personalities who are associated with this movement. Whenever a newspaper or any organization appears, so it should arouse our curiosity. What is it, curiosity? So Bengali newspaper or any journal, so when it was started in 1862, who started it? Girish Chandra Ghosh. Even there is a deficit of information, even if there is a deficit of information in the book, we should explore for more information and add that extra information. So in this context, Bengali was started in 1862 by Girish Chandra Ghosh. Similarly, Sanjeevani was started in 1883 by Krishna Kumar Mitra. Numerous petitions were sent to the Government of India and Secretary of State. So what are petitions? So we all know that whenever there is any kind of problem, when you are submitting your request to the government, you will submit in the form of petition. For example, in our area, if our road is not proper or a road has been damaged and we want to request to the government to repair the road, so when we are sending the request, so I will send it in the form of petition. So numerous petitions were sent to the government as well as Secretary of State, saying that partition should not take place. Okay, so such kind of petitions were also sent. Next, big landlords, hitherto loyal to the Raj, joined Congress leaders. Okay, very important. So big landlords, the people who had hundreds of acres of land, so big landlords. So hitherto, until now, generally they were not interested to join Congress. But during this anti-partition movement, even they joined Congress. They joined Congress to oppose the partition plan of Britishers. Okay, Britishers. Very important point to note. So most of these big landlords, they were mostly intellectuals and political workers drawn from journalism. Some of them were journalists, few of them were lawyers, and also from other professionals as well. Okay, other professionals as well. Now here, this point what we discussed, it will be important only from mains point of view. So in mains point of view, when we are writing our answers, we need to quote the diverse section of society that participated in different movement. So here we can quote that even big landlords, they participated as part of anti-partition movement and subsequently as part of Swadeshi movement. Next, few of these developments. 1903 to mid 1905. So in order to oppose the government's plan, there are different techniques followed. So during this phase, the techniques followed were modern techniques. So what are the modern techniques? So modern techniques of protest include petition. So sending petition or letters to the government. Similarly, memoranda and petition almost mean the same. And making public speeches. So public is unaware, most of the public will be unaware of the partition and all. So through speeches conveying the messages to the public and also conveying the message that it is in what way going to harm India's future or prospectus. Next, public meetings. So they used to conduct public meetings and inform the people. So these are the various ways of disseminating the information, and also press. Through newspaper articles and all, information used to get disseminated. Okay, disseminated. So all these campaigns were going on during this phase. So what was the main objective? The main objective of all these different techniques, whether it is petition or speeches or public meeting or press, the only intention was to turn public opinion in India and England against partition proposals. Okay, so an idea has to be disseminated among Indian as well as native of England as well, that this partition is not good and it should not happen. So this idea had to be disseminated, and public opinion has to be changed in against the partition. That was the major intention of all these different techniques. Next, on 19 July 1905, what happened? Decision to partition Bengal was announced despite protests. So people, when they announced that they are going to partition Bengal, protests followed. But despite those protests, again on July 1905, they said that we are going to partition the Bengal. We are going to divide the Bengal. So despite protests, when Britishers took this decision, so nationalists, they felt that the moderate methods are not working. So the moderate methods which they used, for example, it may be what public speech, or it may be through press, okay, petitions, memoranda and all. So these are not going to work. So we require a different strategy. Okay. So after this, they thought that the present strategy is not working. We have to adopt an alternative strategy as well. Okay. Alternative strategy as well. So what is that alternative strategy? Next we shall see. Within days, numerous spontaneous meetings were held. So now they got to know that the previous methods are not working. So we need to devise a new method. So for that, numerous spontaneous meetings were held, and in those meetings it was discussed what kind of what technique has to be adopted in order to convince the Britishers against the partition. In these meetings, pledge to boycott foreign goods was first taken. A very important point. Okay. Until now, so what kind of resistance was there? We used to send petition, we used to make public speeches, we used to write newspaper articles and disseminate the information to the public. But now, first time they pledged. What is that? So we'll boycott foreign goods. We'll not use foreign goods. So first time in these meetings, a decision was taken to boycott foreign goods. It means whenever I go to market, I'll purchase only Indian made good and I'll not purchase a foreign manufactured product. Okay, foreign manufactured product. The first time this decision was taken. So now here starts the Swadeshi movement. So Swadeshi itself means so whatever has been produced in India within the country. So on 7th August 1905, on 7th August 1905, formal proclamation of Swadeshi movement took place, was made. So where it was made? In a meeting held at Calcutta Town Hall. So the movement hitherto sporadic and spontaneous now had a focus and a leadership that was coming together. A very important point to note. So until this point, there were movements going on at different parts of the Bengal or country, but they were in unorganized form. There was no common leadership. But now, once this Swadeshi movement was launched formally in 1905, so all this unorganized way became organized. So previously spontaneity was there, but now spontaneity got reduced. So an organized way of planning and protesting, it started. Okay, it started. So again, very important point here is famous boycott resolution was also passed. So on 7th August 1905, when the Swadeshi movement was launched, at the same time, famous boycott resolution was also passed. So from Klim's point of view, it becomes important for us to remember that 7 August 1905. Because they may frame a question like, when was Swadeshi movement launched? They may ask you for date. So we need to know that date. Similarly, boycott resolution, when it was passed, 7th August 1905. So these points are important from Klim's point of view. Next, even moderates like Surendranath Banerjee toured the country urging the boycott of Manchester cloth and Liverpool salt. So again, very important point to note. Now we have already seen that Congress had two groups within it. So one group was called as moderate and another group was called as extremist. And there are certain differences between moderates and extremists, and we will be delving deep into these aspects in the forthcoming classes when we start discussing about extremists and moderates. But here at the superficial level, we know that Congress had two groups. One group was called as moderates, another group was called as extremists. And when it comes to moderates, generally they were in favor of modern techniques like petition, speech, etc. But they were not in favor of things like boycott and all. But during Swadeshi movement, what we witnessed is moderates like Surendranath Banerjee also, they favored the boycott. And this example indicates how they favored the boycott. So Surendranath Banerjee, he toured the country and he asked the people not to buy Manchester cloth, not to buy Liverpool salt, because they are not manufactured in India, they are manufactured in Europe. So this indicates that even people with moderate ideology, moderates within the Congress, they also extended support to this boycott movement. So even this point becomes important from both Klim's as well as Main's point of view. In Klim's, they may frame a question like this. So only extremists supported the boycott movement, moderates did not support. So if they make such kind of statement, that will be false. Even moderates also extended the support, and this example of Surendranath Banerjee will be beneficial from that perspective. Next, September 1, 1905. Government announced that the partition was to be effected on 16 October 1905. So finally, on September 1, 1905, government announced that partition will take place on 16th October. 16th October. So again, following this, protests followed. Protest started. Next, intensity of boycott. So what was the intensity of boycott? This example will help us. Okay. This example may not be beneficial from films, but definitely in mains, when you quote such kind of examples, it carries more weightage and definitely it will fetch you more marks. So what is that? Value of British clothes sold in some districts fell by 5 times between September 1904 and September 1905. So within a span of 1 year, the purchase of foreign cloth, so it almost came down by 5 times. Previously, if Indians bought what 1,000 worth of foreign clothes previous year, this year they brought only what foreign clothes worth 200 rupees. So this indicates almost a fall by 5 times. So this indicates the intensity of the boycott. Such examples can be quoted in mains answers. Next, 16 October 1905. So the actual partition took place. So was declared as mourning day throughout the Bengal. So before this, I just listed a few of the dates which we discussed. One is December 1903, 19 July 1905, 7th August 1905, September 1, 1905, October 16, 1905. So when it comes to examination, it will be difficult for us to memorize all these dates. And UPSC also does not focus on all of them. So here we need to understand few of the points from exam point of view. Here among them, the date 7th August 1905 is important because on that day Swadeshi movement was launched. Next, these 3 dates they can be ignored. Okay, these 3 dates they can be ignored. Next is October 16, 1905. Again, it's an important date because the actual partition of Bengal took place on this particular day. Okay, important. So when partition took place, was declared as mourning. Okay, mourning day throughout Bengal. So this was a very sad event for what Bengalis, and they started mourning. So people fasted. They did not eat anything. No fires were lit at the cooking hearth. So people did not even cook in their homes. So these things only happen when sad or tragedy takes place. And the partition of Bengal was considered as a tragedy. And these were the various subsequent events. Processions. So processions were held. So band after band walked barefoot. So people did not even wear any footwear and they started walking. So they bathed in the Ganges. So Ganga water in the morning it will be too cold. Okay? But in spite of that, they took bath and they walked barefoot and also paraded the streets singing Bande Mataram. So all these things they indicate the kind of pain which the people were experiencing because of the partition of Bengal. And that is why in this fashion they were protesting against the Britishers for this move. So through this Vande Mataram, which almost spontaneously became the theme song of the moment. So because of the frequent use of Vande Mataram by different processions and all, so Vande Mataram it became a famous and a theme song of Swadeshi movement. Next, as part of this movement, people even tied Rakis. Okay, so tied Rakis saying that it's a symbol of unity. So generally Rakis are tied by sister to a brother. So in that fashion, so they tied Rakis saying that East Bengal and West Bengal, they are not separate, they are united. Okay, we are one. In order to indicate that unity, so people tied Rakis. So in this context, Anand Mohan Bose and Surendranath Banerjee addressed huge mass meetings. So here, who addressed mass meetings during Swadeshi movement? Such kind of questions will not be asked in prelims. But we need to understand that Anand Mohan Bose and Surendranath Banerjee were important personalities associated with Swadeshi movement. Next, here all this information, it will help us to enhance our mains answers. So prelims, they have less utility, but from mains point of view, so it will be beneficial. So how it is beneficial? Now, when they were addressing the mass gatherings, they drew crowds of 50,000 to 75,000 people. In the era of internet, in the era of social media, also it is very difficult to mobilize people, hundreds of people or thousands of people. But in 1900s, so in 1905, they were able to mobilize the crowd spanning from 50,000 to 75,000 people. So it's a huge mass. Okay, it's a huge mass. So this indicates the intensity of the protests. So perhaps the largest mass meetings ever to be held under the nationalist banner this far. So probably this was the first time that under the nationalist banner, for the sake of the nation, such a large mass was gathering. Large mass was gathering. And also sum of rupees 50,000 was raised within few hours for the movement. So when you start a movement, so you require funds for various different purposes. So within what few hours, 50,000 rupees was collected. This indicates the type of support which the people extended to Swadeshi movement. Next, after 1905 split, what happened? So in Bengal, the extremists acquired a dominant influence over the Swadeshi movement. So after the 1905 split, so Bengal was split into what? Eastern Bengal and Western Bengal. But who started influencing the Swadeshi movement more dominantly in Bengal region? Extremists. Okay. So here moderates played a lesser role, but relatively extremists played a dominant role. Okay. Even this question, question can be asked on this as well. So after the split of 1905, who played a dominant role among the Congress in the Bengal region? Whether it was extremists or moderates, they were extremists. Okay, extremists. Next, new forms of mobilization and techniques of struggle now began to emerge at popular level. So until now, there were a few techniques of mobilizing people and disseminating the information. But now different ways started, different creative ways started, and we'll be looking at those creative ways later on. Next, trend of mendicancy, petitioning and memorials was on retreat. So until now, moderates use the technique of what mendicancy, petitioning and memorials. Mendicancy means it's a kind of begging, we can say. So asking the Britishers, so please don't partition, please don't partition. So these ways, petitioning, memorials, they were on retreat. So they no longer use these techniques. They started adopting a different approach. Okay, different approach. Militant nationalists put forth several new ideas. So again, within the nationalists who had militant ideas, they started putting what new ideas of Protestant on. Okay, Protestant on. Next, political independence was to be achieved by converting the movement into a mass movement through the extension of boycott into a full-scale movement of non-cooperation and passive resistance. Now, new ideas were coming. What were the new ideas? Now, the major intention was to stop the partitioning, or as the partitioning had already taken place, so there was a pressure on the government, or they were protesting to cancel that partition, and reunite the two Bengals as one administrative unit. But now it was trying to take a different turn. Rather than focusing only on the issue of Bengal and Bengal's partition, let us extend this movement to the other parts of the country, and let us make it as a mass movement to secure independence for India. So this was what the idea being proposed by few of the leaders. So as part of this, they proposed the technique of extended boycott. What was it, extended or boycott? So already we know about the boycott of foreign goods. Okay, so we should no longer purchase the foreign manufactured goods. We should only purchase the products which have been manufactured in India. So this was one kind of boycott. But in case of extended boycott, it involved boycotting government schools and colleges, because government schools and colleges, they were started by British government. So Indians should not go to government schools, should not go to British started colleges. So this was another kind of protest, another kind of boycott. So this is called as extended boycott. Similarly, lawyers will not practice in courts. Next, whatever the titles that the Britishers have given, like Raja, Rajaji, Raja, such kind of titles, so those titles have to be returned. And people who are working in government services, they have to resign. So all these are part of the extended boycott. So few of them proposed that apart from the normal boycott of foreign goods, it should also be extended to these other aspects as well, and even organization and strikes. So what was the ultimate aim? The ultimate aim was to make the administration under the present conditions impossible. So the ultimate aim was to impose frustration on the Britishers to such an extent that they should think that now it is very difficult for us to administer this country and we should leave it. Okay, in order to create such kind of frustration, so these various means were proposed. Next, among several forms of struggle, boycott of foreign goods met with the greatest visible success at the practical and popular level. A very important point to note. What is that? Now we saw that there are different forms of struggle. For example, boycotting of schools, colleges, etc. But among them, the most popular was boycotting of foreign goods. Okay, boycotting of foreign goods. Next, leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh, with growing links with revolutionary terrorists, kept the option of violent resistance if British repression was stepped up. There are few leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh. So, with revolutionary ideas of with growing links with the revolutionary terrorists. So, revolutionary terrorists are those who want to take the movement in the violent way. For example, through bomb attack or killing Britishers. So, some of them they said that even we can use the violent resistance if British did not budge. Okay, if we did not kneel down, then we can go for violent resistance as well. So, these were a few of the other ideas proposed by few leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh. So, here we should remember that even Aurobindo Ghosh was part of the Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement. Next, now few of these points. So whatever is mentioned here might not be worthier from Plim's point of view, but definitely in mains it will create an impression if you are able to add this example at appropriate place. So from Plim's point of view, this point is important. Who was the president of Barisal Conference? Abdul Rasul. So it was held in 1906. So in this conference, Abdul Rasul, he makes a statement. What we could not have accomplished in 50 or 100 years, the great disaster, the partition of Bengal, has done for us in 6 months. Its fruits have been the great national movement known as the Swadeshi movement. So he says that if there was no partitioning of Bengal, then probably we people would have never united. So partitioning of Bengal has given us a reason to unite. So this unity, which was not possible in the past 50 to 100 years, it was possible only because of the partitioning, only because of the partitioning of Bengal. So its fruits, so the fruits of the partitioning of Bengal is what? Great national movement in the form of Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement. So in this context, the next few lines are very important. Now UPSC often focuses in Plims, so it may frame a question like this: who among the following leaders took a particular movement to a particular region? So who took the movement to South India? Who took the movement to Delhi? Who took the movement to Eastern India? So these kind of questions can be framed in prelims. Similarly, when it comes to mains, we know that in the syllabus it has been explicitly mentioned, that is different contributors from different parts of the country. So in that, from that perspective, we need to know who are the personalities who took the movement to different parts of India. So in that context, so these names are important. So Lokmanya Tilak took it to different parts of India, especially Pune and Bombay. Ajit Singh and Lala Lajpat Rai, they spread the message in Punjab and other parts of northern India. Punjab and northern India. Next, Syed Haidar Razda led the movement in Delhi. Chidambaram Pillai took the movement to Madras Presidency. So a question was asked early in the year 2016 or 17, wherein in order to confuse us, they said that C. Rajagopalachari took the movement, Swadeshi movement, to Madras Presidency. So that is false. So it is not C. Rajagopalachari, but the names, both of them, they appear southern names. So often they will create confusion. But here it is very much important for us to note that it is Chidambaram Pillai who took the Swadeshi movement to Madras Presidency. Next, Bipan Chandra Pal also played a very important role in Swadeshi movement through his extensive lecture tours, throughout India. Next, in this context, there are a few other developments or events which are important. So Banaras session of 1905, presided by Gopal Krishna Gokhale. So this session, it supported the Swadeshi and boycott movement. So Indian National Congress, it officially extended its support to Swadeshi and boycott movement through Banaras session of 1905. So it becomes again very important. So questions might be framed in this fashion. Who was the president of the Banaras session of 1905? Gopal Krishna Gokhale. In which session of the Indian National Congress was support extended by INC to Swadeshi and boycott movement of Bengal? It was Banaras session. So important. Next, the militant nationalists led by Tilak, Bipan Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai and Aurobindo Ghosh were, however, in favor of extending the movement to the rest of the India and carrying it beyond the program of just Swadeshi and boycott to a full-fledged political mass struggle. Very important. So few of the personalities, Tilak, Bipan Chandra Pal, Lajpat Rai and Aurobindo Ghosh. So they belong to which wing? Extremists. They belong to the wing of extremists. So what was their idea? So rather than confining our movement only to the region of Bengal, so we need to take it to different parts of India. And also, rather than just making it as what boycott movement, we should make it as a mass movement, and the ultimate aim of this mass movement should be securing freedom for India. So they wanted to take it, give it a different direction, So the aim was now Swaraj, okay, self-rule, and abrogation of partition had become the pettiest and narrowest of all political objects. So until now, the struggle was mainly intended to what? Reverse the partition which had already taken place. But now the partitioning of Bengal had become a very petty thing, very small thing, and the major goal that had arisen is what? To make it a mass movement and secure what? Freedom for India. But here, unlike extremists, moderates were not yet ready. Okay, by and large, were not yet ready to willing, or they were not willing to go that far. It means they wanted the Swadeshi movement to be what? Confined only to Bengal region, and they wanted it to confine it only to boycott. Okay, boycott movement. They did not want to make it as a what? Full-fledged mass movement. That is why there were some differences which arise between moderates and extremists. Okay, moderates and extremists. So in 1906 INC session, it was held in Calcutta, presided by Dadabhai Naoroji, again important from Klim's point of view. So in his presidential address, President Dadabhai Naoroji said that the goal of the INC was self-government or Swaraj, like that of the United Kingdom or the colonies. A very important point to note. So UPSC might frame a question like this: during which of the following sessions was the goal of INC was adopted as self-government or Swaraj, like that of the United Kingdom or the colonies? So it is INC session of 1906, which was held at Calcutta, and it was presided by Dadabhai Naoroji. Next, 1907 Surat session of Indian National Congress, a very important session. So we already saw that the differences had started arising between the moderates and extremists since 1905. Okay, 1905, and because of these, as these differences grew, so there was a split. There was a split in the Congress between moderates and extremists. The difference between moderates and extremists, especially regarding the pace of the movement and the techniques of struggle to be adopted, came to a head, leading to a split. A split occurred. That is why this session is very important from UPSC exam point of view. So often questions do appear on this session. Okay, on this session. So they may ask a question like this: in which of the following sessions did what split take place between the moderates and extremists? It is Surat session. Okay, Surat session. Again, in the forthcoming classes, we have a separate topic on this. In detail, we will be discussing why the split occurred and all those things in that particular class. Next, but what was the result of this split? So always whenever there is a split, definitely there will be what? Division. There is no unity. So when there is no unity, then definitely it will what? Benefit our enemies. So the same happened in the because of the split. Because of the party split, it had a serious consequences for the Swadeshi movement. So with whatever the intensity and strongness the Swadeshi movement was going on, now it had a what impact? Negative impact because of this split. Because of this split. Next, a few of the other developments or facts or events which are important. So corps of volunteers or samitis. So major forms of mass mobilization widely used by the Swadeshi movement. So here the only point that we have to remember here is, often UPSC, in order to confuse us, it may make a statement like this: corps of volunteers were associated with civil disobedience movement. So that will be wrong. That will be wrong. We should know that it is associated with Swadeshi movement. Next, Swadeshi Bandhab Samiti, important. So we need to know who set it up. So the Ashwin Kumar Dutt in Barisal was the most well known among them all. So here the important information is Swadeshi Bandhab Samiti was set up by Ashwin Kumar Dutt. Next, Dutt was able to generate an unparalleled mass following among the predominantly Muslim peasantry of the region. Very important. So through his Swadeshi Bandhab Samiti, Ashwin Kumar Dutt was able to mobilize Muslim peasantry. So this point is also very important. Okay, very important. Next, self-help and constructive work at rural areas to reach out to the masses. So when we say Swadeshi movement, it was not confined only to what? Boycotting of either goods or schools and colleges, but there were also some constructive work which were going on at the grassroots level. So these were again part of the what? Swadeshi movement. Okay, these are part of the Swadeshi movement. So they were in the form of social and economic regeneration of villages. Okay. Social and economic regeneration of villages. So an example of social reform might be what? Prohibition of child marriages or prohibition of liquor. An example of regeneration means creating new employment opportunities. Even such kind of developments were going on in the rural areas. Next, campaign against evils such as caste oppression. So an example of social reform. So against early marriage, social reform. So dowry system, social reform. Against campaigns against alcohol consumption. So such kind of what reforms or developments or works were also going on at the what rural level. Again, they are considered as part of the what Swadeshi movement. Okay, they were important developments as part of Swadeshi movement. Next, the richness of the movement, not confined to politics alone. It did not involve only political issues alone, but it also extended to other fields as well. It may be Indian art, literature, music, science, and industry. Okay. So we shall see few of those examples later on. There was also creative use of traditional, popular festivals and melas to reach out to the masses. So in those days, reaching out to masses, there are different means. One is through newspaper, predominantly is newspaper. And in that era, we did not have social media and all. So in order to disseminate the information, we need to mobilize the people, and people will only gather when there is some kind of event or function. So that is why mass Ganapati festival or a public Ganapati festival and Shivaji festivals were started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And the major intention was to mobilize the people and disseminate the information, inform them about the various things which are going on and what kind of roles we can play. So in order to give information, so these popular festivals were held. Next, traditional folk theatres such as jatras used in disseminating Swadeshi message. So there used to be some public plays. So whenever people used to come to attend to that play, so through that play, information used to get conveyed to the general public. So even this was what creative way of spreading the information, which was adopted during Swadeshi movement. Next, Atma Shakti. So during Swadeshi movement, apart from boycott, they also focused on Atma Shakti, self-reliance in various fields. Because without self-reliance, okay, we cannot uphold national dignity, honor, and confidence. So only when we become self-reliant, then itself we can uphold our dignity completely, our honor completely. Okay. So there are numerous such examples. So India previously it was a what food is deficit country. Later it became food surplus. Now we are no longer dependent on food on other countries. So when we become surplus or when we become self-reliant, automatically our dignity will be upheld. So in order to uphold or reassert the dignity, honor, and confidence, so some developments related to what self-reliance were also taken, and we shall see few of those examples. So one example is with respect to Swadeshi or national education. So our national education was dictated by Britishers at that time, but now an attempt was made to nationalize the education, or in the education system, so nationalistic feelings have to be added. So here a few examples are there. Taking cue from Tagore's Shanti Niketan, Bengal National College was started with Aurobindo as principal. So here in this context, we should remember that as part of the Swadeshi movement, Bengal National College was started. And for this, from where did we take the idea? We took the idea from Tagore's Shanti Niketan, and who was appointed as president? Aurobindo. Next, 1906, National Council of Education was established. Again, a very important point. So when was National Council of Education established? As part of Swadeshi non-cooperation or civil disobedience, as part of Swadeshi movement. Okay, as part of Swadeshi movement. So what are its objectives? To organize system of education, whether it is literary education or scientific education or technical education, on national lines and under national control. So all these different types of education, they should be beneficial to our nation. In that format, we have to frame our educational system. This was the goal of National Council of Education, which was set up as part of the Swadeshi movement. Next, National Council of Education also emphasized that the chief medium of instruction should be vernacular, local language, and not English, because it believed that in order to enable the widest possible reach of education, it is only possible if education is given in vernacular language, that is local language. So even question can be framed on this as well. So National Council of Education favored vernacular medium or English medium. So it favored what? Vernacular. Okay, vernacular. Next, technical education. Bengal Technical Institute was set up. So again, an important point. So Bengal Technical Institute was set up as part of Swadeshi movement. Next, indigenous enterprises. So this is a very beautiful example to quote. So Bengal Chemicals Factory was started by Acharya P.C. Rai. Again, another important point to note. Next, in the cultural sphere, we saw different spheres. So next, cultural sphere. So impact of Swadeshi movement most marked. So songs were composed by Rabindranath Tagore, Rajnikant Sen, Dijendra Lal Rai, Mukunda Das, Syed Abu Muhammad. So questions can be asked on this as well. Who among the following what composed songs during Swadeshi movement? So all these names are important, and we have to memorize these names. Okay, these names. So the songs composed by them, they became a moving spirit for nationalist use. So again, when it comes to nationalists, so they had different kind of ideologies. Some of them were terrorist ideologies, Gandhian ideologies, communist ideologies. But irrespective of these ideologies, for everyone, the inspiring source was the songs composed by the various authors. Okay, so them songs composed by them. Next, in this context, Rabindranath Tagore's Amar Sonar Bangla. Okay, so very important. Who wrote Amar Sonar Bangla? Rabindranath Tagore. So written at that time. So this was composed at the time of Swadeshi movement, and this was to later inspire the liberation struggle of Bangladesh and was adopted as the national anthem of that country in 1971. Very important. So Amar Sonar Bangla, it inspired the Swadeshi movement, and also at the same time, later in 1971, when Bangladesh got liberated from Pakistan. So even there also, this song, it played a very important role to such an extent that Bangladesh adopted it as their national anthem. Okay, national anthem, important. Next, Bengali folklore or folk songs. So Palli Geet and Jerry Gun. So UPSC can ask a question like this. So Palli Geet and Jerry Gun, they belong to eastern part of India, western part of India, northern part of India, southern part of India. So it belongs to eastern part of India. So even in these songs, we can see the influence of Swadeshi movement. Okay, important. Similarly, Thakur Mar Juli, so grandmother's tales. So written by Dakshin Ranjan Mitra Majumdar. So here also you can find the influence of Swadeshi movement. Important from both prelims as well as mains point of view. A question on this had appeared probably in the year 2017 or 18 in prelims. So important. Next, Abanindranath Tagore. So when it comes to paintings, so paintings had a domination of Europe, or Victorian nationalism was dominating theme. But Abanindranath Tagore, he introduced indigenous themes. It may be from Mughals or Rajputs and Ajanta. So this also indicates that the type of Swadeshi themes that we were introducing in art, that is especially paintings. So here Abanindranath Tagore's name stands out. Important. Next, Nandalal Bose, first recipient of a scholarship offered by Indian Society of Oriental Art. So again, this question can be asked: who was the first person to receive such kind of scholarship? Next, when it comes to science, so Jagdish Chandra Bose and Prafulla Chandra Rai. So these personalities, they stand out. Okay, they stand out. Next, another very important point to note here is all forms of resistance. So when we say resistance, there are different forms of resistance. Okay, it may be Gandhian type of resistance, or violent resistance, or non-violent resistance. Different types of resistance are there. So all forms of resistance had their origins in the movement. So these kind of questions might not be asked in prelims, but in mains, in order to enhance the quality of answer, we can add these dimensions. So conservative moderation to political extremism. So these are two different ideas of resistance. So both had their origin in Swadeshi movement. So terrorism to incipient socialism, they also had petitioning and public speeches, passive resistance and boycott. So all these different forms of resistance all had their genesis or origin in Swadeshi movement. So next, another very important point to note, social base of the national movement. So when you are writing mains answers, we have to introduce the diversity, but that whether a particular section participated in the movement or there was diverse participation. And when we are highlighting this diversity should be in terms of rural, urban, next poor, rich, next Hindu, Muslim. So in this fashion, we have to add the diversity. So let us look into that aspect. So certain zamindari section also participated. So generally zamindars, they never used to participate in the national movement, but here zamindars participated. Middle class participated. Next, college and school students participated. Women participated. They came out of their homes for the first time and joined the processions and picketing. Important. So women participated. Efforts made to give a political direction to the economic grievances of the working class. So generally working class is busy in their work. So they did not get sufficient time for the national movement and all before. But here the needs of working class were aligned with that of the national movement. So in this fashion, even working class also participated in the Swadeshi movement. Efforts made to organize strike in foreign managed concerns such as Eastern Indian Railway and Clive jute mills. So this is just an example of how railway workers and jute mill workers also participated in the Swadeshi movement. But there are some limitations as well. What is that? Unable to make much headway in mobilizing the peasantry. So the section of peasantry, so their participation was not up to the mark. So even though their participation is limited, also would count a lot. It would count a lot because peasant participation in Swadeshi movement marked the very beginnings of the modern mass politics in India. So in order to start any mass politics, we require mass, okay? A mass people is required. But here, that mass can be generated only when the peasantry participates. So even though the participation was very less, but the mass character was given to the Swadeshi movement because of the participation of peasants. So even though the participation may be less, but it played a very significant role in giving the Swadeshi movement a truly mass character. Peasants were exposed for the first time to modern nationalist ideas and politics. Again, very important point to note. So before this, peasants were not exposed to this kind of protest and all. So first time they were exposed to the idea of national movement, idea of national feeling, and subsequently, because of this influence, in the subsequent movements, they participated in very large manner. Okay, large manner. So already we have seen, so women, students, and a large section of the urban and rural population of Bengal and other parts of India, they actively participated for the very first time. So one drawback was that not able to garner the support of the Muslims. So Muslim participation was not up to the mark. And we already are aware of the reason, and especially Muslim peasantry. British policy of consciously attempting to use communalism to turn Muslims against the movement was to a large extent responsible for this. So why was the Muslims participation in Swadeshi movement less? Because we already seen the example of Bengal's partition. So Britishers wanted to partition Bengal so that by creating a Muslim majority Eastern Bengal, so Muslims can be used as a counter against the national movement as well as Indian National Congress. So in this fashion, Britishers were trying to play divide and rule policy. So because of this, most of the Muslims, as they turned against Indian National Congress and the mass movement, so their participation was relatively less. This was the period when All India Muslim League was set up with active guidance and support of government. So very important point to note here. So All India Muslim League was started as part of Swadeshi movement or non-cooperation movement. If a question arises, then it will lead to confusion. So here it started as part of the Swadeshi movement. But who supported it? Government supported it. British government supported the formation of All India Muslim League because Britishers thought that once this league is created, it can be used as a tool against the Congress and against the national movement. Next, there are one example. In Bengal, people like Nawab Salimullah of Decca were propped up as the centers of opposition to Swadeshi movement. So this particular example is not important. As a result of this Britishers' divide and rule policy, often it used to result in communal riots, okay, between Hindus and Muslims. Okay, so these are the various reasons why the participation of Muslims was not up to the mark in Swadeshi movement. But subsequently, in non-cooperation movement, we will see that Muslim participation was to its peak. Next, by mid-1908, movement became dull. It became weak. Okay, it became weak. So let us see what are the various reasons for this movement to become weak. So one is government repression. So government started suppressing the movement through various ways. So one is participants were expelled from the schools and colleges. So all the students who participated in the movement, so in the schools and colleges, they were thrown out, they were given the TC. So then students started fearing that if we participate, then probably we will not be allowed to enter the schools. So that is why students' participation came down. So this is one reason for the movement becoming dull. Next, people were debarred from government service. So those people who were working in government who supported the Swadeshi movement, so they were removed from the government service. So because of this, many of the other people who are working in government and willing to extend the support to Swadeshi movement, they did not come forward. And this is another second reason why the movement became dull. Next, fine and types beaten by the police. So police lathi charge, fear of police lathi charge also, many people did not participate. So here you have an example. In 1906 Barisal conference, police brutally beat up participants and dispersed the conference. So because of such a brutal lathi charge, in the subsequent meetings, people were not ready to come. So this is one of the other reason. Internal squabbles and split in 1907. So we know that a split occurred between the moderates and extremists in 1907 Surat session. So whenever there is a split, obviously it will act as an advantage to our opponents. So the same happened here as well. So again, this split also led to the decline of the movement. Next, use of popular customs. So we saw an example of Ganesh festival and Shivaji festival were being celebrated with the intention of mobilizing the people and disseminating the information of nationalism to them. But some of the communalists, they used this opportunity and they started to create what? Communal divide. So some of them, they misinterpreted and distorted the story, and because of this, there were some communal violences. So again, this was the reason why Muslim participation was less and also the movement came down. Though spread outside Bengal, the rest of the country was not yet fully prepared to adopt the new style and stage of politics. So later on, initially it was confined only to Bengal, but later on it spread to other parts of the country. But yet, as intensively as it was taking place in Bengal, in a similar fashion, it did not happen in other part of the country, because the other part of the country was not yet fully ready for such kind of the struggle. And this is one of the reasons why the movement became weak. And apart from that, there are other reasons as well. That is, the movement lost leadership. How? Between 1907 and 1908, Ashwin Kumar Dutt and Krishna Kumar Mitra, they were deported. They were sent out of the country. Next, Tilak was given a sentence of 6 years. So Tilak was imprisoned and he went to jail for 6 years. Ajit Singh and Lala Lajpat Rai, they were also deported. They were sent out of the country. Chidambaram Pillai and Hari Sarvottam Rao from Madras and Andhra, they were also arrested. Bipin Chandra Pal and Arvindo Ghosh retired from active politics. So all these examples indicate that few of them went to jail, few of them were deported, and few of the others they withdrew from the active politics. So there is a lack of leadership now. So again, all these various factors contributed to the decline of the movement in 1908. Apart from that, unlike the future, so in Swadeshi movement, Gandhiji had not yet arrived. Gandhiji arrived in 1915. Okay, so before the arrival, there was lack of an effective organization. So because of that lack of effective organization, also probably the movement weakened. Okay, weakened. This may be the another reason. So here, very important point to note here is, the movement had thrown up programmatically almost the entire gamut of Gandhian techniques, such as passive resistance, non-violence, non-violent non-cooperation, the call to fill the jails, social reform, and constructive work. So later on, we shall see that the various methods used by Gandhiji were like passive resistance. Okay? Passive resistance means if Britishers are hitting you, then you will not revert back. Passive resistance. Next, non-violent non-cooperation. So always non-violent, and you will also not cooperate with the government. Non-cooperation example is you will not pay the taxes. Next, call to fill the British jails. So all the people will go and surrender themselves in the police station. Next, social reform, constructive work. So these are different tools which are used by Gandhiji. But even before the arrival of the Gandhiji, in the Swadeshi movement also, these various tools were used. Tool of passive resistance was used, tool of non-violent non-cooperation was used, what call to fill the British jails was made. Okay, social reforms were made, constructive work was also made. But despite that, we were unable to give these techniques a centralized, disciplined focus and carry the bulk of political India and convert these techniques into actual practical political practice, as Gandhiji was able to do later. So as Gandhiji was able to use these various tools in order to mobilize the masses and use it in a practical way, it was not possible. Okay, it was not possible during Swadeshi movement because of the lack of proper leadership. And also, mass movements with same pitch of militancy and self-sacrifice cannot be sustained endlessly. So whenever we start any kind of movement, so initial enthusiasm that will definitely dissipate over a period of time, and the same was the case with the Swadeshi movement as well. So people initially participated enthusiastically, but because of the numerous other factors, gradually that enthusiasm came down, because the participation in the Swadeshi movement, it involved militancy and it also involved self-sacrifice. So with such kind of militancy and self-sacrifice, any movement cannot be sustained for a very long period of time. So this was the another reason why the movement declined, or it became weak in 1908. Next, because of the decline of the movement by mid 1908, it gave rise to another form of resistance, or another trend in the Swadeshi phase, that is rise of revolutionary terrorism. So what is revolutionary terrorism? So people, rather than focusing on what mass action, they'll focus on individual action. And why did this happen? Some could not disappear tamely in the background and opted for individual heroism as distinct from the earlier attempts at mass action. Now, all these days you are involved in such a big activity, but all of a sudden, when the movement becomes weak, all your leaders have gone to jail or they have been deported. Now you have energy, full of energy, but you don't have a proper guidance, and you want what a proper channel to what exhaust your energy. So few of these men, they thought that we should not disappear tamely in the background, but rather we should express our energy for our nation. And few of them thought that that energy can be expressed through individual heroism. So in this individual heroism, they opted different means. For example, killing Britishers or throwing bomb wherever Britishers are residing. So these are the various individual heroism or terrorist ways which few of them adopted. So this was as an end result of what? Swadeshi movement and lack of proper leadership. So they wanted to give a channel to their energy, and that they expressed in the form of what? Individual heroism. Okay, individual heroism. So this was about the Swadeshi movement. So I'll urge you that once you read the Swadeshi movement topic in Bipan Chandra, and after reading them, I hope you'll be able to connect the various dots present over there. And once you are read, later on for the subsequent reading, if you refer these notes, it will be more than sufficient. It will be more than sufficient. So similarly, in the forthcoming classes, we will be discussing about the other important topics related to UPSC. For all our updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.